Hi there, my name's Elena and we haven't seen each other in a hot minute. You might remember me from my Cambridge vlogs, and then I did a little bit of content during my master's degree in tubing, and then I just stopped posting on YouTube. And I wanted to explain to you guys why that happened, and I'm also hoping that this video will kind of mark my return to YouTube, because it has been one of my New Year's resolutions to come back onto YouTube, because I've really missed creating content for YouTube. It's a lot of fun to create these longer videos, but it's also a lot of work, and I haven't been well when it comes to my health for the past few years, and that's why I wasn't in a position to create these videos. But I feel like it's finally going uphill, and so I really hope that I will be able to create more content this year. And yeah, I thought a good start would be to explain why I went away, so I guess let's get started. This story goes all the way back to 2022. I got my Cambridge law degree in the summer of 2022, and that was a really great moment for me. I was very proud. But then I had a flare-up of my rheumatism right after my graduation. Rheumatism is an autoimmune disease, which means that my immune system is a little bit dumb, because instead of attacking harmful things, sometimes it decides to attack my body, which isn't great because it can leave permanent damage. And so you receive medication that suppresses your immune system a little bit so that it's not as hyperactive and attacks your body. I received such immunosuppressants against my flare-up, and they did help, but they take time to really work. So I was struggling with this flare-up over the summer while also preparing for my master's degree in tubing. So for example, I was apartment hunting, and then I was also super tired from this flare-up. So there were days where I was awake for maybe like 6 to 7 hours because I was just so exhausted. And it was also painful for me to walk. One of my knees was super swollen, and I just, couldn't stand for a long time. And even just that really short trip by train from Stuttgart to Tübingen was a lot for me. So it wasn't a great summer, but honestly, if that had been all of it, I think I would have been fine. And I honestly thought at the end of the summer that that's how it's going to be, because my immunosuppressants were finally starting to kick in. I started my master's degree in corporate and commercial law. I really enjoyed my lectures and everything seemed really great. I had found an amazing apartment and I was quite happy. And then the side effects of these medications started. So I was having immense pain from them. I would say that was almost worse than my rheumatism flare-up, because it was really bad. Like, I was literally sitting in some lectures and I was crying because I was in so much pain. And I just hid it because I was still wearing the FFP2 mask by like pulling my mask up and up so that people don't see my tears. And that was honestly a horrible feeling, and it went on for months because the doctors couldn't figure out what it is. Now in hindsight, it's so obvious to me that this was a side effect of the medication, but back then nobody thought about that. Like, all the doctors were like, we don't know what this is, and nobody could really figure out why it happened. And then in the end we realized, wait, that medication, let's try not taking it. And that did help, so we no longer had that issue. But this was going on for months, and that was incredibly frustrating. It was a really rough time. And luckily, getting off the medication wasn't a problem, because rheumatism is a disease that comes in flare-ups of different severity. So sometimes when you don't have a flare-up, you don't need medication at all. So when you get off your medication, you can be lucky and not be in a period of a flare-up, and then you also don't need other medication. So I was really lucky because I got off the meds and I didn't have a problem with my rheumatism. So at that point, I was again very hopeful. I was going into 2023, and I was going into the second half of my master's degree, which was a 1-year program, and I was writing my master's thesis, but I was also preparing for the next medical, I don't even know what to call this, nightmare, because I was super scared of this thing. What was this thing? It was scoliosis surgery, which is spinal fusion surgery. If you don't know what scoliosis is, it basically means that my spine wasn't straight, but instead it was kind of curvy. and that's a problem. And in my case, it would have worsened over time, and the doctors told me that when I got older, I would be so bad that I would have immense back pain, but they could no longer fix it with a surgery. So that's why they have to fix it now while I'm still younger. I think the idea of someone operating on your spine is very scary to everybody, but this particular surgery was incredibly scary to me because there is a small, but I think to everybody very relevant risk that you lose your ability to walk due to this surgery. And that is what scared me immensely. And I was in a really bad place in terms of the fear that I had of that surgery. I was crying a few times a week just because I was so scared of what was coming after finishing my master's degree. Then I got my master's degree and I got it in the summer, and then a few weeks later in August I had the surgery. And the surgery itself went well, but it's an incredibly painful surgery when it comes to the healing process. Just to give you an idea of the pain level, it's normal for them to prescribe oxycodone and morphine to you, and I did take both of those medications for quite a while after the surgery. Looking at my x-rays, you can definitely see the difference that the surgery made, and the doctors told me the x-rays look great, so everything was supposed to heal up well. I wore a protective brace for a few more months, and the pain is supposed to lessen and lessen over time, so you're not supposed to take these super strong painkillers for an incredibly long time, maybe a few weeks to maybe a short span of months. I don't know what the intention is, because it definitely didn't work out like this in my case, because my surgery was in August and in December I was still taking oxycodone and morphine, and I definitely needed it. I was in massive pain even with these strong painkillers. Instead of the pain lessening and lessening over time, what happened for me is that after the surgery the pain lessened for a short time, and then it got really, really bad. It worsened and worsened and worsened, and the doctors didn't know why. So it got to a point where I could hardly get out of bed. I was kind of just living in my bed mostly. I'm really proud of myself nonetheless for that time, because I still made it through that, and I even wrote my book during that time, which I think is an incredible achievement because I was doing terrible, let's just be honest. And I was lying in bed and I was like typing my book. Sometimes I was doing so bad that I couldn't even hold my laptop, so I was dictating my words to my boyfriend, who then typed it out for me. Which I think was kind of an insane thing to do, but I think this project also just gave me something else to think about aside from my bad situation, because it was a really frustrating time because the doctors couldn't figure out what's wrong, because the x-ray, it looked good, so they didn't know why my pain was getting so bad. Now I'm telling the story in a quite linear way, but you have to imagine that it felt like an eternity going through this, and there were so many thoughts going through my head, like, oh my god, what if something went wrong during the surgery? What if I mess up my life by deciding to have the surgery? And there were a lot of doctor's visits that I ended up going to. This was really stressful and this was incredibly exhausting. Like, you have to imagine, even just, making it from my bedroom to my bathroom was a lot for me at that time. So even just going to a simple doctor's appointment was so much energy for me at that point. And I was just so scared. Now, the one thing that I did think about when it comes to potential root causes of this problem was my rheumatism. And so I did call my rheumatologist's office, and everything in this story seems to just have gone wrong, because something went wrong at their office. I called them multiple times and said, hi, I'm a patient, I need an appointment, that's why. And they said, yeah, we're gonna get back to you, and they never did. My rheumatologist actually apologized to me multiple times, very sincerely, when I came in to see him finally in, I think it was January 2023. And he said, I don't know why, like, we have notes of your calls, but I don't know why we never called you back. We're so sorry. And I really believe him. Like, he was super kind. And he was also the person who finally got me out of that situation. Thinking of that time makes me a little bit emotional because it was really rough. but my rheumatologist then told me, look, it's very likely that the surgery triggered a rheumatism flare-up, because one of the known triggers for my rheumatism is that, you know, something rubs on your bones or something. And I mean, there are some screws along my spine, so that makes a lot of sense. So I was put on new rheumatism meds and they helped me a lot. Finally, the back pain was lessening. It was not gone, but it was definitely better. And I was starting to get off the strong painkillers, the morphine and the oxycodone. I actually went through, I guess, kind of a drug withdrawal, because even though they were prescribed for medical reasons and I definitely needed them, you can still get addicted to them. So I now have that experience as well, and it was terrible. So don't do drugs, kids. You have to imagine, at the same time, now this was the beginning of 2023, I was applying to jobs because, you know, your girl needed an income. So I was on morphine and oxycodone and doing job interviews, which is a hilarious situation to think about, and I didn't even get a job. So, you know, I was going through drug withdrawal and at the same time writing applications, which is so weird because my private life was such a mess. But I found a job and I started that in March, and the job was great, the team was amazing, but I wasn't doing well health-wise. It was a full-time job, and I realized, you know, sitting at a desk and doing all that is really tough for my back. So I was really lucky that I had a lot of working from home options, and there were days where I was just working from my bed because I couldn't get up, because walking around in the office, sitting there for one day was so exhausting for me that then I needed 2 days in bed. So that wasn't a great or sustainable solution. I definitely realized this, and I went to the hospital for 3 weeks for a planned pain therapy treatment. Pain therapy is intended to help you manage your pain. So they look at different medications they can try, but they also try to give you some options for, you know, dealing with your pain mentally. And they also showed me a lot of exercises that I can do in the gym to strengthen my back. And I think that last part in particular was super helpful for me. I signed up for a gym. I still hate it. I don't like doing sports at all, but if it helps my back, I'm willing to do it. But at that time, I was already dealing with a new problem, because of course, in this story, things aren't going well. And my new problem was stomach aches. And I had them every day. They were a bit like cramps. I guess you can compare them to period cramps. And they were intense. Like, they were much worse than period cramps, because I was sometimes crying from them. I couldn't stand up straight. It was bad. And again, people didn't know why I had that. At first they thought, oh, it might be an issue that your OBGYN should look at, but my OBGYN was like, nah, everything looks fine. And so, you know, a few more doctors were like, we don't know. And then I was ultimately sent to another specialist doctor. That specialist doctor was a gastroenterologist, and they decided that I needed to get a colonoscopy so that they could look at my colon and see what's wrong. So I got an appointment for that, but you have to wait a little bit for your appointment. And in the meantime, my life was once again, you know, a mess. Because actually, while I was in a hospital for my pain therapy, I resigned from my job. You know, that first big adult full-time job that I started in March? That one. And the reason why I resigned was that I'd gotten a different job, which I felt would be a better fit for me with all these health struggles. Because I mean, at that point, I've been struggling for quite a while, so I felt like I needed a job that would be able to accommodate things. But I do want to say I'm incredibly grateful to my first job, because I had an amazing start into working life as an adult, because I had a really great team there, and I really didn't expect this from that job at all, because it was a job at a Big Four, and I know they don't have the best reputation when it comes to the work environment, the hours, and all of that, but they were brilliant, honestly. I was working in the forensics team at EY in Stuttgart, and if you're ever thinking about applying to them, I would highly recommend it, because honestly, they have a great team. And I think you're really going to enjoy working with the people there. So even though I left rather quickly, I honestly have nothing bad to say about them, because it was a great time and I'm super, super grateful to them. I did start my new job in July, and then shortly after I got that colonoscopy. And well, it turns out my colon was inflamed, and that's why I was having this really bad stomach pain. And you know, that can apparently happen to anybody at some time. And so the gastroenterologist was like, okay, so we just give you some medication and you'll be fine. But you know, medication 1 didn't work, medication 2 didn't work, medication 3 didn't work. And so, you know, weeks went by. It was over a month at some point. Then it was 2 months. And remember, I had been dealing with this since like May. So it was then like end of October, and I was having these really bad cramps every day. And I had them pretty much every hour. So this was not something that happened like 2 times a day and then it didn't bother me. No, this happened a lot, and it was really bad, especially at night. And it reached a point where my boyfriend and I couldn't sleep through the night because I would wake up because I was in so much pain. I would literally just lie in bed and cry because it was so bad. And all the painkillers that I took, you know, that I could just get over the counter, they didn't do anything. And so then my doctor decided to refer me to the emergency room because she didn't really know what was going on anymore, why the medication wasn't working. She hadn't put an actual diagnosis on my case because she wasn't sure. And she was like, yeah, I don't really know what's going on, why the medication doesn't work, so please go to the hospital. So I ended up going to the hospital with my boyfriend, who honestly was my rock during that time. I feel like that sounds so stereotypical, but I'm so grateful for that man. Like, he helped me throughout all of this, you know, like he was by my side when I had my scoliosis surgery. He was the one who drove me to the hospital at like, I think it was like 2 a.m. Because it was so bad at night. And he went through all of that with me, and I'm so grateful to him. So we ended up going to the emergency room. I had all of my doctor's letters with me, and they immediately gave me a diagnosis, like in the emergency room. They were like, yeah, like this looks like this. So that was easy. So the diagnosis was ulcerative colitis. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly. I listened to the translation to English like 2 times, and I still didn't get how to pronounce it. So, you know, I just wrote it here so that you can see what it is. And you know what that is? Another autoimmune disease. Because apparently it's not enough for my immune system to attack my joints with my rheumatism. No, it also needed to attack my colon. But the good news is you can treat rheumatism and this disease with the same medication. So I spent a week in the hospital, and then they, you know, talked to my rheumatologist, and they came out with a plan. So they prescribed me a medication, which is again an immunosuppressant, which works against my rheumatism and that other disease. So that's good news in that sense, you know, no more different meds. But that time was bad also for my back, because I had all of these stomach cramps, and when your stomach cramps a lot, it apparently also affects your back, because my entire back felt like it had muscle ache all the time. And they told me, yeah, it's normal, you know, when you cramp up here, it does affect your back. So I was in a lot of back pain as well, and I still am. I feel like that back pain is consistently changing. Like now it no longer feels like a muscle ache because I'm finally starting to have less and less of the stomach aches, but I still have them as well. But it's still a lot of back pain too. But I think to an extent that is also normal, because think about it. I haven't been doing all of these exercises to build up my muscles, etc. because I couldn't, because I had these really bad cramps like all the time. You know, I did go to the gym when I felt okay, but I wasn't feeling okay a lot of times. So I do think it's definitely now my job to build up those muscles, and I'm hoping that that will help. But they're also looking into why my stomach aches haven't fully gone away. But yeah, that is where we're at now. It's still not an amazing situation, but it's a lot better than it was a year ago. I'm still taking painkillers. My GP prescribed me a new painkiller, which definitely is something that I don't like in a sense, because it does make you a little bit, I guess, fuzzy in the head. It makes you feel funny. And that does affect, you know, your ability to enjoy life. And I do think I'm just also, you know, more efficient when I don't take it, but I definitely need it for my pain. I do realize when I don't take it, and I definitely also regret it. But it is also something that makes you feel nauseous. So I also take medication against nausea. And then of course I also take my normal medication against the rheumatism and the other disease, and that is also a medication that can make you feel nauseous. So great combination there. But what I didn't know is that there is good medication against nausea, so that actually really helps a lot. But yeah, that's where we're at. It's definitely not a perfect situation at all, but it is better than it was, and I think that's what I definitely need to focus on. And I really hope to come back to YouTube more regularly. I don't think I will be back on my 1 video a week schedule right away. That's not, you know, the standard that I'm gonna hold myself to. And I don't even know if someone is still watching my videos. But if you are, hi, and thanks for staying till the end. And I hope to see you again soon.